Hey guys, welcome back. My name is Lauren, in case you've forgotten who I am, because it has been so long since I've been on here with a video. Yeah, it's been a weird couple of months in Melbourne, weird year really, and I went back to work full time, so I just had too much going on to actually sit down and make a video. But I wanted to share some news, which I'm so sorry, you'll already know this if you follow me on Instagram, so this won't be surprising. But my book is getting published. Yay! So I wanted to come and share the story of like how this whole thing came about, because it's very exciting for me. And maybe I thought I'd share it for some budding writers out there who also want to get their book published possibly. And I'm going to get out of breath in this video as well, because I am in my second trimester of pregnancy as well. So I'm pregnant with my second child. It's another little girl. So Lila is very excited to finally be a big sister. So yeah, excuse me if I'm like in this video, because it's not anxiety, it's just I can't breathe. So basically, I've always been an avid reader. I've always been someone who loves books, and I think it's kind of been a dream of mine for pretty much as long as I can remember that I wanted to one day write a book. I always kind of thought that I would be a writer. I had other career aspirations, but writer was always sort of like the thing that I was like, I could do that, I think, because I can write like reasonably well. That sounds really conceited, but I always felt like I could handle, you know, literature, English, all those kind of writing subjects. I was like, I can do this. Maths, no, I can't do maths at all. But yeah, so I always really wanted to be a writer, always wanted to write a book, especially as I got older. It was something that I really just like, it was like this pipe dream, like of one day I'm gonna write a book. I'm pretty sure I told a few boyfriends that back in the day as well, like, I'm gonna write a book one day. When I got diagnosed with agoraphobia ages back, the first book that I read to kind of cure myself of anxiety and panic attacks was a book by Louise Hay called You Can Heal Your Life. I've spoken about this book before. If you've watched like my book recommendation video, it's on there. Also back when I had the blog Anxiety Mama, I recommended it on there a couple of times, but my sister was the one who suggested it to me. I remember she said, don't be put off by the title. And at the time I was younger, I had like perpetual sarcasm. So, you know, telling me to read a book called You Can Heal Your Life, I was like, so she said to me, just ignore the title and just read the book, it's really good. So I read it. I smirked at the title, and then I read it and I loved it. I loved it. It was kind of the first book I'd read about, it's not specifically about anxiety, but it's about how the way we think can really affect the way we feel, can affect our physical body. You know, a lot of our ailments can be traced back to negative thought patterns and things like that, and for me it seemed quite clear that a lot of my panic and anxiety, a lot of it came about because of these thoughts. You know, I would think I'm going to panic, and then sure enough I would panic. So it all sort of made a lot of sense to me, and I started to read pretty much everything that I could get my hands on by Louise Hay. I listened to her affirmation tapes and just got really into Louise Hay. If you're not familiar with Louise Hay, she sadly passed away a few years ago, but she was like a trailblazer for her time. Whenever anyone told her no, she would just say okay and go and do it another way. And she basically started this publishing house called Hayhouse to publish her own book, because I think at the time a lot of publishers said no, they weren't going to publish her book. So she was like, okay, I'll just create a publishing house and I'll publish it. So that's what she did. She started Hayhouse. And if you haven't heard of Hayhouse, you may well have heard of Hayhouse authors, like Vex King, Cassie Mendoza-Jones, Joe Dispenza, somebody I talk about a lot. So a lot of my favorite authors are Hayhouse authors. I remember reading Cassie Mendoza-Jones's first book, You Are Enough. And I read how she won that book deal to publish that book through a Hayhouse competition. And basically what happens is Hayhouse run this yearly writers workshop. So it goes for a couple of days, and they basically teach you about writing a book. They teach you about having a platform. They have talks by different authors, and it's sort of like a real deep dive into the publishing and book writing world. And so I really wanted to go to this workshop because everyone who enters the workshop, or who buys a ticket to the workshop, I should say, gets to submit their book proposal, and one person gets chosen to publish their book with Hayhouse Australia. Well, with Hayhouse, I should say. They run it in the UK, they run it in the US, and they run it in Australia. So Hayhouse UK, Hayhouse US, and Hayhouse Australia all ran writers' workshops, and Cassie Mendoza-Jones was one of the Hayhouse Australia winners. But so I was like, I have to go to this workshop, and I have to submit a proposal, and I have to win, because that's how I'm going to publish my book with Hayhouse. But of course I was agoraphobic. I was housebound. I wasn't going like down the street, let alone going to a writer's workshop in Sydney. I'm in Melbourne, by the way, so that would have meant a plane ride. It just wasn't going to happen. So I put it on the back burner, and I was like, one day I'm going to do that. The day that I recover from agoraphobia, because back then I was like, it's going to be a day that I'll be able to pinpoint. It'll be like, I'm cured. So I thought, I'm going to recover from agoraphobia. I'm going to write a book on how to recover from agoraphobia. And then I'm going to go to the Hayhouse Writers Workshop, and I'm going to submit it, and I'm going to win. And it just was all like, that's how it all lined up in my head. I was like, yep, I'll do all that and I'll win. And so then I recovered from agoraphobia. I started writing my book. Funnily enough, the book started out as how to recover from agoraphobia and slowly grew into this whole other thing. But more on that later. So I recovered from agoraphobia. I was writing the book, and I finally got to a stage where I felt like I could go to the writer's workshop because it's quite expensive. And so when I'd first sort of recovered, being a single mum and stuff, I didn't have the money to spend on tickets to Sydney and tickets to this workshop. So again, it was on the back burner for a while, but then I finally had enough money to go, and I was like, this year I'm going to do it. I'm going to fly to Sydney. I'm going to go to the workshop. Pandemic happened. Who could have foreseen that, right? So fucking COVID happened, and the workshop was cancelled. Like, obviously no one was flying anywhere, no events were running, nothing was happening. So I was like, okay, I'm obviously not supposed to attend this workshop. So I kind of like, I was really devastated about it, but I just sort of like, I was like, whatever, it's another bad thing that's happened this year. But then I found out that they were going to run the writers' workshop online for the first time ever. And they were going to bring it in as one. So Hayhouse Australia, Hayhouse UK, and Hayhouse US were going to come together for this online writers' workshop. It was going to be like a 2-day event, and the only downside was that it was going to be run in US time. So for me in Australia, it was running from about, I think, midnight or 1 a.m. till 7 a.m. So I was like, okay, how am I going to do this for 2 nights, all night? But I was committed at that point. I was like, okay, this is, this is meant to be. I'm supposed to do this workshop this year, and I'm supposed to do it online. So bought tickets, and then I decided to wean off my antidepressants. You guys might remember that from last year when I decided that I would wean off my antidepressants, and unfortunately for me, it did not go well. And so the workshop was smack bang in the time when I was weaning off, and I was feeling suicidal. I was feeling overwhelmed. I was panicked. It was a bad time for me mentally and physically. But I still did the writer's workshop. So Anthony looked after Lila during the day while I slept, and then I would get up at night and log on, and I had like you know, my notebook and everything. And then in the breaks during the, like, because they'd run, you know, like a lunch break and stuff, I would nap. So I would set an alarm and I would go to sleep at like, you know, 3 a.m, 4 a.m, and then I'd wake up for the next talk, the next session. And I loved it. I loved it. It was the highlight of that time when I was weaning off antidepressants. It was like a haven for me. If you're somebody who wants to write a book, I highly recommend it, because it was like going to Disneyland for me in a way. I really enjoyed it. And there was some really valuable advice from some amazing authors in there as well. So that was really cool. But the thing was, obviously we got to talk in a chat, and it was all these people from around the world, and, you know, people were talking about their book ideas, and I just remember thinking, like, there are so many good books in this, so many good authors in this group, so many good ideas. Like, it was almost a bit unsettling, because I thought, man, maybe if I was in person in a workshop, I wouldn't feel so intimidated, but because I'm seeing on a chat like everyone's ideas, I'm like, there's no way I can win this. There's no way. But anyway, after the event finished, I started really working on my book proposal. I worked with a book coach for, I think, 2 or 3 sessions, which was really great. I loved that, but then it was really expensive. I ran out of money, so I couldn't work with a book coach anymore. So I had to do majority of the proposal by myself. And to be honest, a book proposal was a new thing to me. Like, I honestly thought that to write a book, you write a book and then you send that book to a publisher and then they say yay or nay. But it turns out you write a book proposal, which is like a business plan. It's intense, and you submit that, and then they decide if they want to publish the book. This is what you have to do for non-fiction anyway. So yeah. I was like, oh fuck, I wasn't prepared for this. I thought I just had to write a book. I didn't think I had to like do this whole business plan. But so I did it. I worked so hard on it, so hard. Probably harder than I've worked on anything in my life. Every like minute I was doing it. We came out of lockdown. This was in 2020. Actually, no, it was this year, 2021. We came out of lockdown, and I would say no to going to lunches and dinners and things, because I'm like, I'm writing. I've got to get this written. And then I finally submitted it. I'll post some footage right here of when I clicked the submit button. Why is it going so slow? It's done. That was an exciting night. And then Anthony took me out to dinner, and it's weird, like, I'm gonna sound like a bit of a dick saying this, and I don't mean it in a conceited way, but there was this huge part of me that just thought I was going to win. Not because I thought my book idea was the best and that I was the better writer or anything like that, because I was really intimidated by everyone else, and I didn't think that I was the best writer. And I didn't also think I had the best idea, but I just, like, I'd thought about it for so long as it happening that I just thought it was going to happen. Like, I was like, no, this is how I'm going to write my book with Hayhouse. Like, this is how everything's going to fall into place. This is why I dealt with agrophobia. This is why I had 2 years housebound. This is why I was devastated and upset. And this is why my life felt so fucked up for so long, because I was supposed to go this way. I was supposed to do this. And like, they're going to publish my book because that's just how it's going to go. And I remember one night Anthony was like, you know, like, have you thought about what might happen if you don't win? Like, do you think about, like, what are you going to do? Are you going to still write your book anyway? And I'm like, no, I haven't thought about that. No, I'm not going to think about it because I'm going to win. And I heard myself saying it. I heard that it sounded really conceited, but it just honestly didn't come from that place. It just was I just felt like it was the way things were supposed to be. Like, I guess I thought I didn't go through all of that to not get to where I want to go. Like, this is what it was all for, I guess is the best way I can explain it. And I also felt this connection, I guess, to Louise Hay. I don't know. I guess because I'd listened to so many of her affirmation tapes and her audios, and I just felt like I knew her. That sounds cheesy or stalkery. I don't know. Then, like, I just had to let go because it was like, well, that's going to take them months to decide. There's heaps of book proposals to go through. They were splitting it though. So it was Hayhouse Australia was going to pick a winner. Hayhouse UK was going to pick a winner, and Hayhouse US was going to pick a winner, I think. And Australia was Australia, New Zealand as well. So there were going to be 3 winners this year, when usually there's only 1 winner because they only do Hayhouse AU or Hayhouse UK. So then I started working full time. I was busy like planning a holiday, and then the fucking 2nd or 3rd wave or whatever happened in Melbourne, and just we went into lockdown again, and that kind of took over everything. And I sort of had not forgotten about it. I was thinking about it all the time, but I wasn't like expecting anything to happen anytime soon. And although I will say I was meditating about it a lot, I was journaling about it a lot, I was visualizing it a lot. So often in my meditations, I would sit there and then I would think about like Leon Naxon calling me and saying, we're going to publish your book, you've won the competition. And I would picture how, or I would sort of feel how that would feel. And yeah, I mean, if you go back through my journals from the last year / 2-3 years, it'll say on like every second entry, hey, how's it going to publish my book? Because that's just how much I thought about it, I guess. Wow, I sound a bit obsessed now. One day, I'm driving home from work and the sunset was really beautiful that night. It was like pinky, orangey, like just really pretty. And for no particular reason, I said, hi, Louise, because it just kind of felt like she was there. I feel really funny when I you know, repeat that, because it sounds like weird, but it just, I don't know, it just happened. I was like, hi, Louise. And then drove home. And then the next morning I drove to work. I filmed a video that morning about how exposures are important. And then I'm sitting at work, it was like mid-morning, and my phone rings and it's a number that I don't know. So I answered it and this voice goes, hi Lauren, it's Leon Naxon here. And I'm like, and he goes, do you know who I am? I'm thinking, yes, I know who you are. Yes, I've only imagined this conversation in my head like 50 million times. I've written your name 100 times. Like, I know who you are. I'm going to be totally honest, I don't even quite remember what they said in the conversation, because it was like there was just noise in my ear from that point on. Like, it just, I remember him saying, I'm calling to tell you that you've won the grand prize. We want to publish your book. And like, just, yeah, my world exploded. I couldn't like feel my body, and I'm standing there at this newish job. I'd only been there for a few weeks with my boss, who I hadn't really told. I mean, I hadn't told her anything. I told her about panic attacks and anxiety and that I get really anxious, but I certainly hadn't said I spent 2 years at home housebound and all the rest of it. So I'm on this phone call, like trying to take in what they're saying. And then I got off the phone and I'm standing up and I'm like, oh my God. And my boss is like, what? And I'm like, they're going to publish my book. And she's like, what book? And so I had to explain everything, and I just, it was one of the best mornings of my life, without a doubt. I can't tell you how many times I'd imagined that conversation happening. And then when it happened, it was exactly the way I imagined it. And like, I have honestly never been more proud of myself. And I don't even feel like that's cheesy to say, because I worked so hard, and I guess the main reason I'm proud is because I know how hard the things that I went through were in terms of panic attacks, in terms of anxiety, in terms of being housebound and being terrified of my own body, and, you know, not being able to really function in the world for 2+ years. I know how much that hurt, and I know how hard I worked to come out of that and to get to that point where I was now having a long time dream come true, because I had put myself forward in that way about something so vulnerable. Like, I wrote about my panic attacks, I wrote about toilet anxiety, I wrote about all of those things that terrify me, and, you know, it was through that I am now managing to fulfill this huge childhood dream. So I just felt like I wanted to give myself a massive hug in that moment, and I was stoked. And I still, every time I think about it now, I'm still like beyond proud of myself. So yeah, I had to stay silent about it for a while because they didn't make the announcement, and that was very hard because I find that hard to stay silent about happy things. But yeah, I finally was able to announce it. I announced it on Instagram and on Facebook. Basically now the process is that I have to finish the book because the book's not finished, even though I've been writing it for the best part of a decade. And the reason for that is because as my journey with anxiety has, you know, gone on, my views on anxiety have changed. The book that I'm writing is really about, I said it in the best way I could to someone yesterday, it's about living and about anxiety and how those two can overlap. The book is called Here You Are Courageous, and basically about life with anxiety. It's not a how-to book. It's not, you know, one of those books that's like, this will fix your anxiety, or it doesn't have like strategies and techniques on how to calm a panic attack, because honestly there are so many awesome books out there that have that. And the place that I wanted to come from was a place where we are more accepting of our anxiety, and a place about finding the courage that lives inside of us through the fear, not trying to fix ourselves and mold ourselves into this fearless shape so that we can get through life, because what I found is that hasn't worked. Like, the more that I try to get rid of the fear, the more that I try to not feel the fear, the harder it gets, and the less I'm able to interact with the world. So basically my book is not only my gift to me when I was in the throes of agoraphobia and didn't understand what the fuck was happening, but it is my gift to everyone else who has messaged me and written to me, and everyone else who has felt that way as well, and has wanted answers and has felt like everything they try doesn't work. It's a book about courage, basically. So yeah, it's going to be published next year by Hayhouse Australia. Yay! I still get so excited saying that. I've left full-time work now. I'm focusing on finishing the book and pouring my heart into it. So it's going to be a big labor of love. And then I'm actually going to have a labor of love as well with this child that's due in April. So baby's due in April, book's due in June. There's a lot happening in 2022. But yeah, I just wanted to come on here and share that story. The best thing that I can say to you is that if you are somebody who wants to write a book, you want to publish a book, honestly, the Hayhouse Writers workshop was fucking awesome. And the good thing about it is that this is not a promo for the Hayhouse Writers workshop, by the way, but I just really got a lot out of it. The good thing about it is that once you've written that proposal, you've written it, and you can send it to Hayhouse, you can send it to Penguin, you can send it to whoever you would like to publish with. But writing the proposal and understanding how to write it, learning how to write it, learning how to have a platform behind you and all that stuff was really, it was all news to me. So yeah, that's my news. So I'm really excited to start sharing a little bit more about the book as we get closer to publishing date. There's going to be like some workshops and live readings and all sorts of stuff like that. So you can look forward to more from this face. That was, do I really want to say that? Yeah, and I really look forward to talking more about anxiety, because, you know, that's what this channel is about. I've spoken about it a lot. I may have changed my name from Anxiety Mama, but I'm still a mama with anxiety, so it's still something that's really relevant for me, and something that I still am passionate about really talking about, and not in a technical way, not in a medical way, not in a I don't know, not in a distance kind of way. I want to talk about how it really feels. So yeah.